On August 7, 2026, the Department of Defense published its fifth tranche of declassified material under the disclosure effort known as Pursue. 41 files, sensor videos, FBI interview forms, written incident reports, artist renderings. Material spanning 1950 through 2026, and some of it, the Pentagon says, remains classified. The footage reportedly shows small dark or circular targets, glowing orbs, and a black triangular craft. What the Pentagon has not said is that any of it is extraterrestrial. The government's own label for these cases is one carefully chosen word: unresolved. That word is doing enormous work. Understanding what it means, legally and scientifically, separates analysis from speculation. This pipeline has a statutory history. Section 1683 of the fiscal year 2022 National Defense Authorization Act created what became the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, jointly under the Deputy Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence. 2 years later, the fiscal year 2024 NDAA directed the National Archives to establish a UAP Records Collection. But the strongest provisions of the Schumer Rounds UAP Disclosure Act, an independent review board, and eminent domain over recovered materials were stripped in conference in December 2023. What survived is agency-controlled release. Tranches, published on the government's own schedule, reviewed by the same institutions holding the records. That's the frame around everything in this file drop. According to the department's own description, the files cover encounters over the Gulf of Oman and the western United States, alongside decades-old paperwork reaching back to 1950. The imagery is characterized in the release as small dark or circular targets, glowing orbs, and a black triangular craft. Every case carried forward here is categorized as unresolved. That is a status AARO assigns, not a conclusion about origin. And critically, portions of the collection remain withheld. So what the public receives is a curated subset of a curated subset, declassified fragments of cases the office itself has not closed. Treat the tranche as a document release, not a finding. Here is the definitional core. Under AARO's methodology, a case is resolved when available data supports attribution to a known object or phenomenon with sufficient confidence. Everything else stays unresolved. That is a statement about the sufficiency of the data, not about the strangeness of the object. Precedent matters here. The ODNI's June 2021 preliminary assessment examined 144 reports and resolved exactly one, a deflating balloon. The other 143 were left unresolved, and the report said plainly the limitation was data quality. Then AARO Director Sean Kirkpatrick told the Senate Armed Services Committee in April 2023 that the majority of resolvable cases demonstrated mundane characteristics. Unresolved is a filing status, not a verdict. Now the physics. An infrared targeting pod produces an angular measurement, where something sits in the camera's field of view. It does not by itself produce distance. Without slant range, you cannot derive size, speed, altitude, or acceleration. A slow object nearby and a fast object far away can generate identical imagery. This isn't theoretical. The Navy's own Go Fast video, once described as a craft skimming the ocean, was reconstructed by independent analysts using the on-screen telemetry to roughly 13,000 feet, moving at modest speed with the wind. Gimbal's apparent rotation has been attributed to glare artifacts in the optical system. Same footage, same sensor. Completely different conclusions once the missing variables are supplied, which leads to the central problem with any tranche like this one. The data required to resolve a sensor case is the data classification exists to protect. platform type, sensor model and calibration, field of view and zoom state, precise coordinates and timestamps, radar correlation, local atmospheric soundings that reveal temperature inversions or ducting. Redact those and you preserve the mystery by construction. This is not necessarily bad faith. It is a structural consequence of releasing collection products from operational systems. But the honest reading is uncomfortable. A striking video stripped of its metadata is not evidence of anomaly. It is evidence that analysis has been made impossible for anyone outside the building. The non-video material demands its own discipline. An FBI FD 302 is an interview summary, a record of what a person said to an agent. It documents testimony, not the underlying event. The FBI's own most famous UFO document, the Guy Hotel Memo of March 22, 1950, records third-hand claims about recovered discs. The Bureau notes on its public vault that the memo was never investigated and remains unsubstantiated. Artist renderings sit further still from evidence. They encode a witness's recollection, filtered through a second person's hand. These records are historically valuable. They are not measurements. Conflating the two is the most common failure in UAP coverage. Context from AARO's own reporting to Congress. Its most recent annual report documented 319 UAP reports for the period covered. Separately, and this is a distinct dataset measuring a different thing, AARO logged 50 unmanned aircraft system notifications near nuclear sites in fiscal year 2025, up from 18 the previous year. Those 50 are not a subset of the 319, and the two figures must never be added. They come from different reporting streams with different thresholds. The nuclear site figure describes notifications, not confirmed incursions. Precision here isn't pedantry. Inflated or merged numbers are the fastest way to discredit an otherwise legitimate oversight question. So, what should oversight actually demand? Not more footage, structured data packages, slant range or radar correlation, platform position and velocity, sensor calibration records and known artifact behavior, contemporaneous weather soundings, documented chain of custody. Astronomer Avi Loeb's Galileo project and academic groups have argued the same point from the outside. The answer isn't declassifying more ambiguous imagery, it's instrumenting the sky with calibrated, multi-sensor systems designed from the start to produce range and spectra. Congress can compel the first. Science must build the second. Neither is served by a video with the numbers blacked out. The fifth Pursue tranche is real. It is official, and it documents cases. The United States government says it has not resolved. That is genuinely significant. It is also, on the available record, all it says. No authentication of extraterrestrial origin, no accompanying telemetry, no calibration data. Some material still withheld. The gap between the Pentagon-released UAP footage and the Pentagon-released evidence is exactly the gap between an image and a measurement. And it is the gap that has defined this subject for 76 years. The correct posture isn't dismissal, and it isn't belief. It's a specific, documented list of the data still missing.